The answer is absolutely. The notion of a Judaic Islamic tradition is as real, if not more so, than that of a Judeo-Christian tradition. The term Judeo-Christian was invented only at the end of the 19th century as a sort of ecumenical term for Jews and Christians in the United States and the West. But culturally, the idea of a Judeo-Islamic tradition, that is of ties between Judaism and Islam, are in a sense far more real historically than between Jews and Christians. Christianity was founded as a break with Judaism, whereas for Islam did not see itself as coming out of Judaism. For much of history, the majority of the last 1400 years in any case, much of the majority of Jews in the world up until the 17th century lived in the Islamic world, and the two religions shared so much in common. As for the centrality of it, the answer is no. The Palestinian, or rather the Arab-Israeli conflict, is a phenomenon of recent times. As a historian of the la longue durée, the last 50, 70 years are recent, as far as I'm concerned. And certainly for understanding the history of the interrelations between Jews and Muslims, the Jewish-Muslim encounter, if you will, the Palestinian conflict is only a very recent chapter. Like all subjects, it's something that's worthy of study, but it's not integral to the history of Muslim-Jewish relations for much of history. Obviously, for the present, you do have to have an understanding of it. Well, I just finished a major project, which was the 5-volume Encyclopedia of Jews in the Islamic World, which had been working on round the clock for the past 5 years. And we're now already working on the continuation of it with the updated online edition. So that has taken up a great deal of my time and effort. I mean, it's an enormous work, 2.25 million words, and we're already, as I said, working on the additions to it. I might also mention it won 2 international awards this past year. One of them here in Britain. My other project that I'm working on is a book which is 80% finished, but of course 80% is still unfinished. Means it's unfinished, and that is a book entitled The Jewish Community and Society in North Africa, and I'm hoping within the next year that I should be able to finish that as well. I started very young with a great interest in archaeology. I think I was about 10 years old. Went to the university in order to study Near Eastern archaeology, and in my second year at the university I took a course with the great scholar S.D. Goitein. I must confess it was love at first sight. It was mutual. He asked me into his office about 2 weeks after the class began, asked me in his German accent, Stillman, you know, what are you planning to do with your life? And I told him Near Eastern archaeology. He said, well, he said, I have something far better for you. And the next thing I knew, I was studying documents from the Cairo Geniza, these great cache of documents. Cambridge has the largest collection in the world. There are some 250,000 of which Cambridge has about 125 to 150,000 of them. And these are documents from the Jews of from the medieval Islamic world. I, of course, had to learn Arabic to be able to read them. And from that point on, it became my life's work. One is to, two pieces of advice, I think. One is to really learn the languages and the cultures thoroughly in order to familiarize yourself with them, to really know them, and two, to come into this with a totally open mind. One of the great tragedies of Middle Eastern studies generally in the United States and in Europe has been the politicization of it on account of the Arab-Israeli conflict. And anyone who wants to really enter into this field and make a genuine contribution, I think has to be able to do it with the kind of dispassion that I believe good scholarship requires. You can see I'm not a postmodernist, and I don't believe that, you know, there's no such thing as truth, and that you have your truth and I have my truth, and we should simply let our prejudices take us wherever we wish. On that, perhaps I'm naive or an idealist, but I genuinely believe that we can at least make the attempt of approaching fields where we put our own feelings aside and try to let our studies and our materials speak for themselves. And if we do that, I think we have a contribution to make. Language is one of the most important elements of society. There's an Arabic proverb that says, "Likulli lisan insan." For every language, you have a new human being. And as someone who grew up in a family that was bilingual family, different languages, but not the ones I use now, other than the English one. As someone who works in a field such as this, different languages give you different insights, not only into what the French call the mentalité et sensibilité, the mentalities and the feelings, the sensitivities of people. Without that, you lose something. You know, the Italians have this famous phrase, tradore, traditore. To translate is to betray. You do have to translate, but to really understand, you have to understand things in their original. Then you can make the attempt at translation. That's difficult for me to answer. I like what I do. The two things for which I'm best known are the two Jews of Arab Lands book, Jews of Arab Lands and Jews of Arab Lands in Modern Times. And I'm very proud of them. The encyclopedia obviously will be, to a certain extent, for whatever it's worth, a monument of its sort. There is no other reference work like it. But I'm very fond even of my opuscules, the little works, the little book I did on a North African Judeo-Arabic dialect. So I like to think of my work in a totality and not pick one thing.